the Comptroller of Public Accounts, and you will be testifying neutrally. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great, thank you. Mr. Pounds, we show you registered as Bobby Pounds on behalf of the Comptroller of Public Accounts, and you will be testifying neutrally. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Green, we show you registered as David Green on behalf of the Comptroller of Public Accounts, and that you will be testifying neutrally. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for being in the ninth inning with us.
Absolutely. Best for last, right? All right. Thank you so much, Chairman, Vice Chair, and the committee. My name is Clarice Roquemore. I'm the Assistant Director of Fiscal Management at the Comptroller's Office. I'm here to provide the committee some information tonight on our expenditure audits. There are 4 broad categories of audits that we conduct, the first of which is contracting. Contracting audits are essentially a holistic review of the contract process from the research and procurement planning phase to execution all the way through contract monitoring. We have desk audits. These are a little bit more ad hoc in nature. This is where we identify a specific issue, either with a swath of agencies or statewide, and we use data mining techniques to get a little bit more information. So a couple of examples, we have dual and multiple employment audits across all state agencies and higher education institutions, or we target, agencies with purchasing cards and make sure that they're properly leveraging the some of the card rebates and other incentives along those lines. We have encumbrance audits. These focus on agencies that lapse large amounts of previously encumbered appropriations. On these, we really focus on ensuring that those original encumbrances have proper support behind them. And lastly, most significantly for this committee, we conduct post-payment audits. And the purpose of these is really to verify the legality and accuracy of state expenditures after those payments have been made. And the scope of these really are to examine whether these payments comply with state laws, rules, and regulation, and whether supporting documentation is adequate. We also take a close look at internal controls. We use the risk-based methodology to select agencies and payment types for audits. We focus on areas with a higher risk of error or a likelihood for impropriety. To the extent an improper payment is identified, we work with the agency on a recovery process. So what this typically looks like is we either work with the agency to deduct the improper payment in whatever subsequent payments may come up for that payee. We may have the agency directly approach the payee to recover the payment. And we also have the authority to reduce remaining appropriation balances at an agency to the extent those efforts really don't come to fruition. All of our post-payment audit reports are available online on our external FMX website. Each year, we compile a list of top 10 common audit findings. For fiscal 24, a few of these include missing or incomplete vendor compliance verification. So these are your firearm and ammunition industry discrimination checks. These are ensuring that a payee is not on warrant hold, things of that nature. We also have Human Resource Information System, or HRIS, reporting being done improperly by certain higher education institutions, and prompt payment and payment scheduling issues. So, these kind of go both ways. An agency can either make a payment late and accrue prompt payment interest, or they can make a payment earlier than necessary and we lose out on Treasury interest earned on some of those Treasury funds. We, of course, make every effort we can to mitigate against these findings. So our division offers training on expenditure processing and documentation. My colleague's division in statewide procurement offers training for purchasers, and they have a whole suite that he would way more competently lay out than I can. And I guess as a sort of a final thought, I think it's probably clear already from the extensive conversation you have with the state auditor's office, but these audits are different than the ones conducted by SAO. These are more of an agreed upon procedure style of audit, whereas theirs are more comprehensive, and certainly their financial audits are using generally accepted government accounting standards, auditing standards, or GAGAS, which are essentially universal standards for practitioners of financial audits. This concludes my prepared remarks. Happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Maybe we'll ask the questions at the end. If that's
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, wait, no. Representative Rodriguez-Ramos.
Are we asking questions? Or what did you say? Wait,
Yeah, go ahead.
end?
You can. Yeah.
On page 2 of the report that you all provided,
Oh,
okay. Should I wait until you testify?
That
Okay,
may make
sure,
sense,
just wait.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
you do your thing, Bobby.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members. Happy to be here. My name is Bobby Pounds. I'm the Director of Statewide Procurement at the Comptroller's Office and the Chief Procurement Officer for the state. Today, I am going to briefly discuss a program that we have within statewide procurement. It is the Texas Smart Buy Membership Program. That is a program that is authorized by Local Government Code 271, and it enables local governments, assistance organizations, and other eligible entities to leverage our statewide contracts, therefore saving them procurement time and money. I believe you were all handed a trifold on the Smart Buy program. So I'm just going to briefly explain that process, give you a couple data points. So for a nominal annual fee of about $100, Texas Smart Buy members, they have access to over 400 contracts from 515 vendors on our statewide contracts. We have an outreach team whose goal is to go out in an effort to boost this membership. And what that does is that further leverages our state's buying power so we can extend those benefits to those members on an annual basis. Just a couple data points of note. We currently have 1,815 members in this program. That includes 577 school districts, 519 municipalities, and 201 counties. The balance of that, I don't know, 500 or 600, is various other organizations that meet our eligibility requirements. In fiscal 24, those entities, those members spent about $71 million against our statewide contracts. Also in fiscal 24, we also do the payment card, procurement card. And those members, via their use of our payment card, received $6.5 million back in rebates. So all that does is it adds to the usage, thus allowing us to leverage rebates for all users across all state agencies and local members. So in conclusion, I just want to say that this is a program, it ensures public entities can access high-quality goods and services at competitive prices while also maintaining compliance with procurement laws, state laws, and regulations. We believe that this cooperative program provides valuable and time-saving efficiencies to our eligible members, allowing them to direct their limited resources elsewhere. That concludes my testimony. Be happy to answer any questions, or if y'all want to wait for Mr. Green.
Okay, Representative Kane.
Mr. Pounds, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So on the Texas Smart thing, I believe in your opening you kind of mentioned how you're promoting it or you're trying to get more locals into the membership of the Texas Smart program. Do you track a list of who you've talked to and who you haven't talked to? Is it...
We do. We do have a list, I would say top of my head. Texas Municipal League, we go out to entities like that. Any of these eligible entities that are on here that have events, we'll go out and market to them, hopefully bring them to our contracts for that $100 fee.
Would you have a list of all the local entities that are taking advantage of this?
Absolutely. Yes, we can get that to you.
Please do. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, how about we go on to the next?
All right.
Do you mind, Mr. Green?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is David Green, manager in the Data Analysis Division of the Comptroller's Office. Today, I will be discussing the report on state programs not funded by appropriations. In each even-numbered year, the Comptroller submits to the legislature the report on state programs not funded by appropriations as required by Government Code Section 403-0147. This report provides the legislature with information needed to review the size and scope of government by identifying programs required by statute that do not receive appropriations. In mid-June of each even-numbered year, the Comptroller sends out an email request for information to all state agencies, departments, boards, commissions, and other entities in the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of state government to report such programs for each fiscal year. This request requires each state entity to provide the Comptroller with the following information: each program that it is required by statute to implement, but for which it has received no appropriation, a citation of the law requiring the program, the amount of money used to carry out the program in each fiscal year, and the source of this money. A full list of these programs with this information can be found in Exhibit 5 of the report. In the most recent report released in December, the Comptroller's Office contacted 198 state entities. 38 entities reported having programs required by statute that are not funded by appropriations. A total of 158 individual programs were reported in the 2023-24 period, with a cost of $223 million in fiscal 23 and $242 million in fiscal 24. Of note, this data is published as reported to us by each agency and is not independently verified by the Comptroller's Office. So some other broad takeaways from the last report. The Texas Education Agency reported the greatest number of individual programs at 29, followed by the Department of Public Safety with 15 programs. The state entity with the greatest reported cost for the 2-year period was the Guadalupe Blanco River Authority, with unfunded costs of $93 million in fiscal 23 and $110 million in fiscal 24. The Department of Banking reported the second highest unfunded cost of $31.8 million in 2024, followed by the Department of Public Safety with cost of $17.7 million. Lastly, the total number of unfunded programs reported has increased in recent years from 131 in 2020 to 142 in the 2021-22 period to now 158 programs in the 23-24 period. So this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. Representative Rodriguez-Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 2 of your report, for the TEA, Open Enrollment Charter School District and Charter Partnerships, from the program cost in 2023 was $248,000, and then it's over $10 million the following year. Where do we receive more information about that, and where does that funding come from if it's not appropriated?
Well, we'd have to contact TEA to get more information on that. And as far as where
It seems
does
outrageous.
as far as where does it come from, as I mentioned, Exhibit 5 in the report gives greater detail of each of the programs.
Yeah, and I looked at the Exhibit 5 in this report,
Yes, ma'am.
and it doesn't, I don't see anything there that says anything about the TEA.
Okay. Well, that's something we can definitely follow up on with you. We'd have to look more into that.
Yeah, because it's not listed in any of these agencies that you have here. And
Okay.
so, yes, I definitely want more information on this, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Members, other questions? Representative Curry.
Thank you all for staying so late, and sorry to take away from your families in the day, but this is obviously extremely important to all of us, and we appreciate y'all's involvement from the very beginning. Mr. Chairman, somebody else just sat at the table. I'm not sure if they're...
Did that again. All right, hold on. What is your name?
I'm Corey Castillo. I'm with the Comptroller's Office.
Okay.
Are you registered?
Not technically.
It's K,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. All right, Ms. Castillo. Castillo? Okay, Ms. Castillo, we show you registered as Corey Castillo on behalf of the Comptroller of Public Accounts, and you will be testifying neutrally. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
And sorry I jumped up a little late. I just wanted to point out there is some additional information, Representative, on the Open Enrollment Charter School on page 32. That explains kind of the legal citation and where it came from, as David laid out. But it is still, we can't answer any additional questions. And luckily, the commissioner just walked in, so.
All right, Representative Curry.
Lucky for him. So I do have a few very pointed questions, but and these y'all run several programs that are extremely important to me. So the first question is the state procurement? Are y'all the state procurement department? Is that correct? Is that a different area, or is that you?
We're a division of the Comptroller's Office, statewide procurement division within the Comptroller's Office.
So that is the procurement division, the procurement
It is the
department,
chief procurement
correct?
office for
Or
the state,
division.
yes.
Okay, perfect.
The Comptroller is the chief procurement officer of the state, and then by my position, I am the CPO for the state.
Okay, so then I just didn't hear what you said when you were talking about how you go after your bids and so on and so forth. Do you have procurement officers then that work for you, employees that work for you that do this, or do you contract this out?
No, yes, I have a division of about 90 FTEs that we do contract development, management. We train and certify all the procurement professionals across the state. We put out the procurement and contract management guide. We manage the vendor performance tracking system for the state, a myriad of things.
Okay, so that's going to take me, I think probably at a different point in time, you and I need to spend some time together on this subject. I don't have to do it up here, but I'd certainly like to get with you and discuss this, and we'll end up discussing it further, simply because I think the process that we're using and the processes and the buying power that we have can certainly be expanded, and we certainly should be using it throughout our state for all of our taxpayers. And I'm very interested to take that program to a higher level. Question for you: have you heard of most favored nation pricing?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and do you use it in your contracts?
We see that on our text mass contracts. Text mass contracts is a program where we take another competitively bid contract, for example, GSA or some other state or competitively awarded contract. We slap our text mass T's and C's on top of that, and we do have a most favored customer clause within those contracts.
Okay, would you mind getting me a copy of just a little bit of the language that you use, or if you use different
Absolutely.
language in different contracts, a few of them, just a few examples,
Sure.
please? I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And then I'm assuming, and it's Mr. Green. So I am assuming that, Mr. Chairman, that this $241 million are the zero fiscal note bills?
Some of them, they have no appropriation. Some of them have been studies, right? Or some of the things that had no fiscal note. And, I want to know what they are. But some of them were zero fiscal note programs maybe at one time that were supposed to be absorbed by state agency resources, but were not. And therefore, additional money was used to do it. Some of them were fees, I guess, that were generated from outside of appropriations that were used to fund them.
That sounds correct.
Okay.
Yes. We can look more into it to get you more detail
Okay.
on that.
Okay, well, I know I shouldn't be asking you questions like that, but I guess I'm going back to my questions to you. So the answer is yes, we definitely would like to look deeper, way deeper into that and fully understand it. And I think as a state that we owe this to our constituents statewide to do this, every taxpayer. And we should know about them. So the follow-up question to that is, yes, I would certainly want a lot more detail on that and to understand where the money's coming from, where it's going. I realize that you have reports and things, but we've got to be able to discern how many programs there are and so on and so forth. I think it's also fair to ask about the ones who have not reported, the 44 that are not listed. I guess they may be listed somewhere in here, but that didn't answer. Can you describe those a little bit, or is there a good reason for it, or?
To my knowledge, they're not obligated to answer. So we try our best to follow up and get an answer, and usually the answer is no, we have nothing to report.
Okay, can we get a list of those that that didn't answer, or the ones that answered and said we didn't have anything to report, and the ones that of the 44. I'd like a breakdown of the 44,
We can
because
get you a
if they're
breakdown.
spending our dollars, they have an obligation to answer to the comptroller. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if they didn't answer, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be ugly about this. I'm trying to get to the bottom of a complex problem that we need to continue to work on. And if the legislature needs to work on it, that's why we're here. Right? That's $250 million is a lot of money, no matter what. And to be able to identify and get down to the brass tacks on those and understand where we need to go is a critical mission of this committee, and a pretty nice place to start from my standpoint. So the final question I think that I have is that when do you believe that it would be possible, because you and I guess Miss Clarice
Roquemore.
Roquemore,
That's a lot of consonants.
is that right, Roquemore?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got lucky. So from your standpoint, y'all see the data as the money's being spent, correct? So you do have what I would call a general ledger, and every check that's written, every dollar that's spent, y'all see, correct?
Yeah, we see, yes, we do.
How quickly do you see it?
Well, most of our controls live inside of our USAS system, right? So I think that there's been some discussion that this is a mainframe system. So we see it daily. This is still a system that batch processes overnight. But as the payments are entered, we are able to go and see them batched in real time.
Okay, so let's just say that I'm an agency and I write a check or whatever. I send a check out and it gets cashed, and that is it within 24 hours it comes that you could have visibility to it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if there were a list of zero fiscal note bills or unappropriated funds, is it possible for y'all to be able to identify those on the first dollar spent before we get $250 million into it?
So we can only see transactions that affect cash in the state treasury. I might not fully understand the question if you want to ask it a different way.
So I'm just going to take the zero fiscal note bills for the moment.
Sure.
Right, and you have a list of those, and all of a sudden $1 is spent against one of those, right? That's not appropriated. It has no appropriation for it. So $1 on a non-appropriated item, which are what you're listing here, correct? So when the first dollar is spent, is the time that we should go, whoa, like what's going on with this program, right? And I realize that there's a lot going on here, and there's a whole lot of moving parts, but I'm kind of driving at, is there a way to use artificial intelligence to be able to do some things for us that can handle millions and millions of transactions at one time and come back and identify the exceptions to us? Certainly an exception that I want to know is the first dollar of expenditure on something that's not appropriated is the time to stop it. And then we got to figure out as a legislature how we deal with that. But did that clarify my question to you?
If I may, I think some of the programs, and I think I do understand your point, but I would, and again, these are responses to us from the agencies, so I'm just going to pick one, but I'm not saying this is a great example. But DPS has reported one of their programs as the Commercial Driver's License Program as one of their unfunded mandates or unfunded by appropriations. That is a program that they need to maintain by statute. So, and they have Code of Federal Regulations and other things. So I think stopping that immediately when they try to pay for that is probably, we probably need to first check which of the programs kind of fit into the bucket.
I'm going to cut you off for just a second because I might not have been clear about that. I'm not saying stop it.
Okay.
I'm saying identify it immediately and we figure out a process. I think part of our job is to kind of help all of us put together a process for delving deeper quickly on something like that. Good example. They should have been dealing with that with the fees and funds that come in on the CDLs, right? I mean, I had a CDL for many years, so I had to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I'll just tell you but the minute that you have that's not funded is when I want to start getting there before we ever get to the $241 million. I want to get there while it's still less than $1 million or $2 million, because once an agency or any state person has committed to these things and we've expended it one way or another, it's too late, right? We're not going to go get this back. So I want to try to get it as quickly as I can, and it may very well be that, oh gosh, we screwed up and we didn't get it appropriated, or there really is a bucket of money, but it's coming in a revenue source that we didn't think about. That's all well and good. That's what we want to know, is match it up so that you don't give a kid a credit card and just let them go wild. In college, you give them a $500 limit, and when they hit that limit, you get a notice. And that's the analogy that I'm using, but it's no different than we would with a lot of instances. So I would like for y'all to come back to us and say, hey, is it possible for us to do that? What would you need, and how could we take that to the next level, and what can we do to help you do that, right? I mean, we're in a position to help each other, I think, a lot in this equation. And the government efficiency is what as you well know, we're all about. And then we're very excited about it, if you can't tell by our questions and all of our involvement. And I certainly am very excited. But anyway, so if you can get back to us on something like that, and I'm sure that the chairman and the staff will have a lot more input on that as well, and I'd be happy to help with that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Can I ask a question still about some of these numbers? So let's say any of these, but the money, the program cost, it's a cost, so it went somewhere. Did this go through the Treasury? Like, is this money that went to the Treasury and then was removed from the Treasury? In other words, does this money go into the comptrollers, into the, it's a safekeeping trust or the Treasury itself, or is this some other account outside of the Treasury? Do you all know?
So it's going to depend on the source of funding that they've listed here. So if you looked at which program, the agency would tell us how they did actually end up funding that program. So that would depend, and then Clarice could answer on specific ones.
And the reason I ask that is because Section 6, Article 8 of the Texas Constitution says the withdrawal of money from the Treasury. No money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in pursuance of specific appropriations made by law, nor shall any appropriation of money be made for a longer term than 2 years. So the way I read that, not a lawyer, is that if the money is in the Treasury, then you can't spend it other than with an appropriation. And this literally says agencies, cost of programs, receiving no appropriations. So how does that happen?
I think, and Corey could probably elaborate on this a bit, but the agencies ultimately have to find another expenditure route. So they're likely using a similar program or another program area that's, again, kind of a good parallel to the unfunded mandate, but they're likely using other amounts that have been appropriated for similar programs to make that expenditure.
Fair, but the Constitution doesn't say similar to others.
Yeah.
It says no money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in pursuance of specific appropriation made by law. So
Sure.
something that we'll talk to some of the agencies about. But
Yes, sir.
anyway, are there any other questions? Yes.
All right. It's about merit pay, and I'll try and read it. I've seen a lot of statutes kind of say relate to merit pay in the codes. Usually the language generally says something like this: all merit pay for department employees must be based on the system established under subsection. And it's all I see in the codes. So is there a code for this, for the merit pay? And if so, who gets merit pay and how much?
We would have to look that up and get that to you. I don't know that off the top of my
Have
head.
you ever seen a pay code for that?
There is a reason code in CAPS that ties to merit pay, but of course that would only apply to agencies that are on CAPS, which isn't all of them.
Well, it's something we're interested in. Be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Members, any other questions? All right, that's all we got for now. Thank
Okay.
you. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
All right. All right. Oh, where'd it go? All right, the chair calls Commissioner Mike Morath.